You are now locked in to the Crest Report. What better show are you going to go out there and watch that's going to give you the details, the information, the insights, the do's and the don'ts of precious metal purchasing, and especially when it comes down to gold and silver, but obviously palladium and platinum too. Every single week, there is something new to talk about as to what's driving prices of each one of these up or down, why that is, what we can expect in the future, what the experts, and I put that in quotes, are out there saying. And as always, the things that are going on around the world and other countries' markets and uncertainty based on military and financial and other things that are happening around the world. It's going to affect the price of precious metals. And let me bring in the star of the show, the one and only Rich Jacoby, who started the Crest Report and has since brought it here to LFA TV for a lot of reasons. One, because we are in a current partnership together. I am very, very adamant about your diversification in your finances, in your your economic situation that you find yourself in and we find ourselves in today. And I think everybody out there that has a nest egg or a savings or any kind of desire to not wake up tomorrow and find everything gone, if you're in that position, I think you should definitely have your money put in different places, whether it be bank, real estate, Bitcoin, precious metals. Diversification is always the most important thing today, especially as you get into your retirement years. We've seen it happen before. We've seen the markets dip and we've seen 25% gone out of your 401k overnight. And we're here today and every week to educate you and inform you on how you can avoid that situation. You don't have any control over it. If it is, you have no control over it if it's, if you don't have a tangible a way to get it when you need it, I think is the best way to say it. And if somebody else is controlling those finances, then you can wake up one day and it can all be gone. Rich, welcome. It is Saturday. It is week 3 of the Crest Report here on LFA TV, and I'm getting a lot of people say that they are very, very happy with the information that we've been able to give them.
No, it's great. Thank you, Jeremy.
You're very welcome. So, what do we see this week? I think the talk of the town, silver, right?
Well,
Obviously gold too, but silver really, really took a hike, right? And went up over $90 this week. Like we said before the show, we expected it and we didn't expect it. We're shocked and we're not shocked at the same time. It just seems the reason why I'm so shocked is because of the rapidness of it, how fast it's every day it's like another record, another record.
yeah, it seems like I wasn't even expecting it to hit $90. And I just checked it right now and it's at $90 and gold's at $4,600.
And the
And
other
the US Mint even stopped selling silver right now. They halted it.
is that I didn't see that. So that's breaking news here, ladies and gentlemen. The U.S. Mint halted selling silver.
Yeah, because of the volatility of it, because it's skyrocketing at a point of unprecedented time. So I guess what they did is, and you can check online that they actually stopped it, but we actually
Wow.
have a secure source to still get silver.
Well, and that's why you guys need to be part of Golden Crest Metals, because Golden Crest Metals has that secure source to continue to get silver. And with the U.S. Mint holding that back, Rich, that is huge news coming off of what we heard
Yeah,
last
actually,
week.
maybe what I'll do is I'll pull it up right now. It was actually an article I was reading while we were talking, and it says U.S. Mint suspends sales of silver numismatic coins products on January 14, 2026 due to extreme volatility
Wow.
and rapidly, extreme price and rapidly rising production costs. review and adjust pricing for these high demand items. So they're calling it a mint freeze.
Wow. So a week after we find out that China is starting to hold their silver and their gold and their precious metals, specifically their silver, tight to their chest, we find out that America's doing the same thing.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing. And as you know, China stopped their export.
Yes.
So they're hoarding their gold and silver now.
So so if this is a trend, I think we're going to see that $200 silver price long before you and I thought that it was going to come. Like we expect maybe by the end of the year, if this trend continues, we might see this before the halfway mark of the year.
Yeah, I mean, even before this news came out, people were loading up on silver. And then when this hit, people are calling and saying, okay, take my IRA, put in $100,000 in silver, and then send me $20,000 cash silver to my house directly.
Wow.
I mean, that's how cautious people are being right now.
Wow. 888-308-4202, guys. If that's you, if that sounds like something that you've been thinking about doing, there are people right now, part of Rich's team right now, available to take a call if you want to call them. Again, 888-308-4202. That lets them know that you're calling right here from the audience of LFA. So people are coming to you, Rich, and saying, hey, I'm taking $100,000 out of my IRA and I want $80,000 of silver locked up and stored, and then I want $20,000 of it sent to me physically. That's what's happening?
That's where it's going right now.
Wow. Well, folks, I mean, we talked about this the other day on my news show, Rich. We said 2 years ago from now, we were at 9% inflation, and people had lost 25 to 30% of their 401k. Okay? Here we are today. We're only at 2 point maybe 4%, depending on which where you're going for your information, but in between 2 and 2.4% inflation. And people have gained back 20% of their 401k. And you would think the average everyday person out there, and something I used to think of was, okay, we've went in the right direction economically here in the country based on the dollar. You would think that the prices of precious metals then would go down, but that's not the way it works. Here we are sitting with record number after record number every day, despite the fact that we're at 2% inflation rate and 20% of the 401k coming back.
And trillions of dollars.
What was that? What was that last part?
Oh, in trillions of dollars in debt too.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
It's still going up.
Well, and that's that Jerome Powell effect, right? President Trump calls him too late. And President Trump is, his administration, the DOJ, has opened up an investigation into Jerome Powell for his misuse of funds for the renovations on the Fed building. But I think what's far more egregious that Jerome Powell did than misusing a few $100 million of renovation money, which he should definitely be accountable for, but is the trillions of dollars that he has put on the back of American taxpayers for generations, with his rate manipulation and then, of course, printing of all that cash.
Absolutely. And it seems like he even, in a way, during one of the interviews.
That he did what? You're cutting it out there.
Oh, it seemed like he even admitted it in one of the interviews.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, he's guilty as the day is long, for sure. But getting back to the 401k, I was part of that crowd that lost a lot of money in the 401k. I emptied my 401k, what was left of it, I should say, after it was decimated after the 2020 election. I ended up freaking out and taking out all my 401k because I said, I'm not going to leave my money in such a volatile market where I could lose the rest of it. Now, I didn't have 40 years of 401k built up. I mean, I had a nice little chunk of change, which I used actually to buy precious metals, but I didn't have anywhere near what some of these people have. I remember in that 4 years, Rich, people were telling me that they lost $100,000, $80,000, $60,000. Like the prices were just, the amount of money that people lost was crazy. And that's the problem, is that you can wake up tomorrow and that money will be gone because the market has wiped it out. I don't see that happening with precious metals. You might go up and down, you might dip and rise, but you're never going to see it 100 grand wiped out.
No, not at all. I mean, we've seen the 10-year trend on gold and silver, and we've never seen it crash.
Never once.
I mean, and people are calling all the time saying their 401k or IRA is getting wiped out. So they're looking for a safe haven, which is why they're turning to gold and silver. And it just solidifies, what I've been saying is that everything is skyrocketing in precious metals, even though we're in turmoil on a lot of other issues.
100%. I want to go to the Greenland thing for a minute and Taiwan. If you read, like I do every day, I read up on what's going on politically, the current events, what's coming out of the administration, what's coming out of bureaus and agencies. But I also daily look at the precious metal news of the day. And if you read any precious metal news this week, specifically more towards the latter part of this week, they're talking about the sudden rise in precious metals. And it's not just gold and silver, folks. It's palladium and platinum, too. Like, yeah. I can remember reporting for you guys that palladium and platinum was sitting at $980, $960. Once in a while, it would jump over $1,000, and I remember reporting those same numbers to you within a range of $100 for months and months and months and months. Go look at the price of palladium and platinum today. You're talking palladium in the platinum in the $2,500 range. You're talking palladium in the $1,900 range. So it's not just gold and silver, folks. It's precious metals across the board. And the news articles, the headlines this week, Rich, were the reasoning for this is uncertainty around the world. Whether war is coming or whether, we talked about this last week with Maduro. Everything is going to affect everything, right? We live in a very fragile global economic, we're all tied together compared to 50 years ago. So if President Trump says, we're taking Greenland, or if President Trump goes and gets Maduro, or if President Trump does a $500 billion deal with Taiwan, which he's done, those news stories. And then Iran, too. You got this deal with Iran going on. Those headlines are going to get people spooked. And they're going to do it. That's why we see the trend. That's why the United States just did what you said. You see this trend of holding things close to you. So if you're looking like at this story that I'm reading right here, this is from Yahoo News. And I'm looking at a CNN. And I'm looking at a Bloomberg. And they're all saying that it's because of heightened uncertainty around the world that's causing these prices to go up, not necessarily the worth of the dollar or the technological advancement that needs to be made with silver.
No, I think you're right. The Iran situation popped up this week where, President Trump basically said we took away their nuclear capabilities and, they'd be ill-advised to do anything else beyond that. And it looks like they're proceeding forward. So like you said, there's uncertainty with Greenland, Taiwan, Iran, and everyone is turning towards precious metals because it's a secure place and tangible.
Well, and what I like to call it, and whether people agree with me or not, it's God's money. God didn't make the paper dollar on the second day of creation and say it was good. But God did make the heavens and the earth. And these beautiful precious metals that we get are from the earth. So it's, as a Christian man myself, it is nice to see people running back to they know what is godly. Not the love of what is valuable, but what is godly in the fact of created, and it is from this earth, and it's precious, and people are running towards it.
Yeah, I mean, you can see Jerome Powell admitted he's printing more money in one of his interviews, and it's obviously affecting the economy and everything he's done. So I think Trump hasn't selected a Fed chair yet, but I think he's close. But the sooner we get Jerome Powell out, I think, it's going to be better for all of us.
Do you think if President Trump did announce a Fed chair nominee, regardless of who it was, should I let me rephrase that? Do you think that when President Trump announces his Fed chair nominee, that will affect? We know it's going to affect the stock market. We know it's going to one way or the other. We know it's going to affect the Nasdaq and the Dow and what do I want to call it? Consumer Price Index. Will it affect gold and silver as well?
Absolutely, because I think it's going to boost the consumer confidence level because everyone knows that whoever Trump picks is going to be aligned with his interests of, rebuilding the economy.
Well, and not only that, a lot of people. I gave a versus thing the other day. I said 2 years ago. That's where I was getting those facts. Where I was talking about 2 years ago with the 401k and stuff. I did this whole thing talking about where we were 2 years ago and where we are now. And I literally had somebody in the comment thread of this social media post say, you're an idiot. Nothing is cheaper now. Things are more expensive. And I'm thinking to myself, is this just political? Is this just the way politics are nowadays, where they're so ingrained in everybody everywhere that people can't take fact? Fact is, things are cheaper than they were 2 years ago. Are they as cheap as we want them to be? Absolutely not. And here's the deal. Here's the secret, folks. President Trump, even being the most powerful man in the world, he doesn't have a magic wand to make $36 trillion of debt go away, number one. And with the Fed being separate and not under the direct hierarchy of the administration, the Fed and what they do, no matter what Trump does, no matter how good, no matter how much money he gets invested into this country, unless the Fed is willing to stop printing money, which is what Rich just said, it's not going to matter that much on a global scale that much.
No, not at all. That's why I think gold and silver are going to continue to surge. And like they said, we're at $600 outside gold. It's probably going to hit six from what they're projecting. And like you said, silver's probably going to hit $200 not too long from now.
So I want to talk to you about something here real quick, and this has something to do with what Rumble did lately. Have you heard of Rumble Wallet?
No, actually,
Okay, let me explain to you is the best way that I can what Rumble Wallet is. Okay, so I just want to turn this down here. Rumble Wallet is a new secure way to store Bitcoin, Tether Gold, precious metal ownings, and it's a way to use it as currency, almost like you know how you go to the store and get Bitcoin, you get the Bitcoin machines like the Bitcoin ATMs. This new Rumble wallet is supposed to work in a way where you can actually use your gold wealth, I guess, in a way to tip people and exchange money 24/7, banking free, control free. Now, this is such a new thing that I don't really know a lot about it. But my question to you is, when do you think we will see gold, silver, palladium, and platinum ATMs at the disposal of an owner of precious metals to where you can convert somehow your ownings into a way to purchase or tip somebody like a favorite content creator? How far are we away from having that? Because if that happens, you're talking game changer. And I think the dollar even loses far more worth once that happens.
I don't think we're that far away, honestly, based on what's going on right now. I think once the Greenland situation, Taiwan, and Iran, once we get those settled, I think we'll start to see that.
Really? like
Yeah, I think
within the
so.
next few years.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that.
So what would have to happen? And I don't know if you even know this answer, but what do you think would have to happen at an infrastructure level for us to do? Because the government is going to want their greedy little hand. They're going to want their greedy little hands in everything. You know what I mean? Like,
Of course.
from an infrastructure perspective, what would have to happen in order to, like, say Jeremy Harrell has, $1,000 worth of silver here. Okay, there's my little tape to keep it up my
Probably
top
more
on
than
there.
that now.
Right. But you're probably right. But what would it take for this ownership of this gold or this silver to be able to be put in an infrastructure that is capable of me spending it or having buying power with it? What would have to happen? I would have to have this in some kind of institution, correct?
Yeah, I think basically going back, we would have to put in an institution where it's regulated and controlled,
Well,
But I think there's always the fear that if the government's controlling gold and silver for an individual, that they can take it away.
yeah.
That's why a lot of it's privately held.
So it would have to be some sort of a private blockchain that is separate from the U.S. government's control that you can trade back and forth for things, but always when you go to liquidate or when you go to cash out your Bitcoin, there's going to be taxes to be paid to the U.S. government. Yes, no?
Which is, I think, is fine. I mean, the taxes being paid on capital gains is fine because that's the way it works. But it can't be controlled inside of a government facility or have the government with their hands on it. A lot of people are calling us are afraid the government's going to take their Bitcoin, all their assets.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying, when you deposit it, does it go into a private facility? Is it controlled by the government? Can the government take my gold and silver? So even though things will change, it's got to be, like you said, kind of a semi-private trade transaction.
Yeah, because like if I want to go and take this silver and I want to come to Rich Jacoby's house and I knock on the door and you say, "Hey, how you doing?" And I say, "Hey, how you doing?" "Hey, I want to buy your car." And I say, "I've got precious metal here." You could sell me that. That would be considered a trade. But to be able to take this that's not in an institution and be able to go into my local, grocery store or gas station to buy gas, they're not going to accept this, correct?
No, they're not. I mean, the only way they accept it is like you've seen these YouTube videos where they go into pawn shops and they weigh the gold and they do a trade or a loan
Right.
or, however they do it. But it still hasn't been accepted in the way you're talking about, like Bitcoin, where you can do that transaction.
So everything outside of private transaction between you and I, the government's going to have their hands in because we run off the dollar and everything is run, all buying and purchasing based that's not private is all based on the dollar. So somehow this has to be converted into that. And the stuff that we have at home, not the stuff, I can understand if we have stuff in Delaware, right? And we have stuff that's stored, that could somehow be recorded and used on some kind of a Bitcoin blockchain style of buying power. But you still can't go into the grocery store and buy stuff with Bitcoin credit card, right? And I can't go into the store and buy stuff with gold and silver credit card. And I'll never be able, and who knows, I'll never be able to take what I have at home and go do that. So I think you're right. I think that the ability to transfer your gold, silver, palladium, and platinum into dollars from an institution in which you have it stored will probably be the first thing that we see, and we'll probably see that in the next couple years, hopefully.
I would say it's going to take a couple of years.
Yeah, I want to get to the point where I can spend this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
But again, if I got to the point where I could spend this, I probably wouldn't want it in my house to begin with. I might want it in that institution to begin with. So I just want to read a couple of these headlines here for you.
Sure.
Real quick. Now, this one's coming from CNN Business. So CNN is obviously CNN. But
Right.
Trump is threatening to take strong action against Iran just after capturing the leader of Venezuela. His administration is criminally investigating the chair of the Federal Reserve and is taking scorched earth approach on affordability by threatening key profit drivers for banks and institutional investors. Also, not only banks and institutional investors, Rich, credit card companies too. He's talking capping their interest rates to 10% for the next foreseeable years, and not 30%, which is going to just do wonders for the American consumer as well. So it says 2026 has gotten off to a chaotic start. You'd think that this would be enough to send the stock markets into a downward spiral. But equity traders are taking most of that news in stride. Stock hits an all-time high Monday and have fallen back just a smidge since then. Instead, investors have expressed their fears by setting the metal market on fire. It then goes on to say silver rose more than 6% on Wednesday, rising above the $90 an ounce that you and I spoke of, and is up, ready for this? This year alone. What are we, 16 days into this year?
Right.
29% increase in 16 days, Rich.
I know. I've talked to clients. Where else can you find that type of return in an annuity, in stock, in any?
Nowhere.
That's why I think we're as busy as we are, is people are coming to their senses. And even though they've been listening to their financial advisors, the financial advisors are running out of excuses saying why not to get into it.
Well, and we had that conversation last week and the week before. These financial advisors, I almost just called them financial rejects. These financial advisors, they're not stupid, folks. They're not stupid, so they must be doing that for a reason. And we talked about that on last week's Crest Report. And it's because they're not in a situation or in a position to be able to make the money off of you purchasing precious metals right now. If they could, if they had their infrastructure set up to where they could make that same kind of money off precious metals, you can bet your bottom dollar they'd be saying, hey, you should invest in precious metals. Again, 29% in 16 days. There is not an institution or a thing on planet Earth that you could invest in other than maybe food in Ethiopia that gives you a 29% increase in 16 days.
Yeah, I mean, and look what's driving the S&P. It's NVIDIA,
Yes.
which is AI, which requires silver. So I think that's one of the major drivers too.
Yeah, absolutely. To go on, it says this, that stunning gain, which is, there's not a better word for it than that, especially considering silver prices surged 141% in 2025, which is the best performance since the year I was born, Rich, 1979.
Wow.
And then it said gold is up nearly 1% this year, which, again, we didn't expect. Rich said it last week. We don't expect gold to get to, $10,000 an ounce. We're not going to see the same kind of increase with gold as we are silver, but we're still seeing an increase. Rich, a 1% increase in 16 days, I think that's even good for any institution.
It's still good. I mean, 4,600 an ounce. I mean, look at where we were probably 6 months ago. It's still a really good return.
What is
the price point is a little bit higher for people, so people are turning towards silver because for price.
Yeah, exactly. A little risk for a bigger reward. What is and again, excuse me for my ignorance, and audience, you'll have to excuse me too. I'm learning on the job here. What is a troy ounce? What is the definition of a troy ounce?
So a troy ounce is basically the same as an ounce.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just a weight.
Correct.
Okay. Well, it says 1% gold increase, well above 4,600 a troy ounce, and gold has gained 22%. Like silver, gold also posted its best year in 1979, but in 2025 jumped overall 65%. Tin copper, which we talked about last week. I'm still
Right.
waiting.
I looked into it.
You did?
Yeah, I looked into it because I want to get into it, and I'm still researching it how to offer that to consumers.
So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, before I continue on with these highlights here of this,
Yeah.
so last week the Crust Report, go back and watch it. If anybody's watching this right now and you have in any way, shape, or form interest in precious metals, this is not just a quick ploy to get you to go to Golden Crest Metals and buy from them. This is why Rich wanted to do this. He wanted to educate. Education, knowledge is power, right? Go back and watch all of them. They're all different in their own way. Obviously, we're going to be talking about why the markets look like they do, but there's obviously news to talk about every week. Last week, we talked about copper. We talked about I used to be in plumbing and heating. Back in 2005, I went to tech school to get my journeyman's license to be a plumber, and we did plumbing and heating. And one thing that I will never forget, Rich, is even back in 2005, which is 20 years ago now, anytime that we did a remodel, our owner would say, "Keep the copper." And
Yeah.
I'm like, why? We're not going to reuse it. You know what I mean? It's like old copper. It's that we're not going to reuse that. And he said, keep the copper because we'll sell the copper. And I was like, okay, copper's. I didn't see the value in it. But since then, 2005, you now hear about people breaking into housing developments that are in construction and ripping out and stealing the copper. It's not funny, but I mean, it's funny that they're doing that because copper's worth so much. So that was a conversation that we had last week for the chat that's watching right now, is that I said to Rich, you should start a copper company as well.
It's interesting, not to interrupt you, but
Yeah, go ahead.
I always thought copper was being stolen when it's stockpiled on a job site. They're actually stripping the units in multifamily of the copper.
Yeah.
That's how aggressive they are with this. And that's
Yep.
why I was pursuing it based on our conversation last week. And like you said, the show's not to scare people into going to Golden Crest to buy metals right away. It's to educate them so they can make the decision for themselves if they want to pursue a purchase.
That's right.
But yeah, copper is a big thing right now I'm looking into.
So is there anything that you can share that you found out? Like, how would you even do? I mean, clearly you'd have to go to a wholesaler to get copper at a wholesale level. Would it come in coins? Would it come in bar? Would it come in 10-foot lengths for water
I think
piping?
since you were in the plumbing and HVAC business, I think it's going to come in lengths,
Really?
and
Yep.
I think that's how it would go. But it's getting harder to find a wholesaler that'll sell it, because most of it is done through vendors, like plumbing houses and stuff like that. That's where they sell the copper.
Yeah.
You got to find a wholesaler, which I don't think has really been pursued that much, to find somebody that will sell it on a wholesale level to, a retailer.
What about becoming a wholesaler? What would that entail?
That's another option too that I've looked into as well. So that takes a little bit more, relationship based in finding the copper.
Well, I mean, you'd have to have relationships with all kinds of different people who have access to it, right? I mean, including
Correct.
construction companies, right? And offer a price.
Multifamily market is really on the rise right now because people can't afford to buy houses. Even though the Fed's dropped the rates, it's still hard to get a loan. So people are going into apartment buildings, and in Southern California and Northern California, they're building apartments left and right, and it takes copper. So I'm hearing about a lot of theft in copper because of the value of it.
Yeah. Well, I do know that a lot of people, especially in the plumbing world, a lot of people went away from copper and went towards that PEX tubing because it was easier to
Right.
run. They didn't have
And
to.
it's cheaper.
And it's cheaper, and they say it could last longer. But there's still a lot of people, especially the snooty, hoity-toity, people who are hiring construction companies to build their house who want copper. They will tell you, I want copper in my home. And there's a reason for that. I mean, mice can't chew through copper. right?
That's true. But what they do is they do PECs in the units, and then in the corridors and the common areas they do the copper.
That's right. That's exactly
You know,
right.
to try to balance the cost or
Well,
whatever.
yeah. Well, what they'll do is they'll run the copper on the main runs, and then they'll adapt to the PEX tubing,
Correct.
so that they can go up through the walls and don't have to drill so many holes and perfect lining and do so much soldering. They could just kind of pull like wiring in a certain way. But again, I remember even back when I was doing plumbing and that became popular, you were still having people that would that were getting bursts in their pipes or leaks in their pipes, and it was
Yeah.
because rats and mice were chewing through it.
Yeah.
And they can't chew through copper. You know what I mean? So,
But developers still, because they look at the short term, and some of them are a 10-year hold. As you know, in some of the multifamily markets, they have a 10-year tail. So they're trying to be more cautious, but they're still using packs, unfortunately.
yeah. Well, getting back to, so that was the conversation that we had last week, folks. So if you want to go back and watch that show, and you have a lot of copper that you want to sell to Rich, he might buy it. Tin, copper, aluminum, lithium, and zinc prices all also on the rise in 2026. Gold is a traditional safe haven. I'm still reading from the article here. It says gold is still a traditional safe haven against inflation, against mounting deficits, which that's not going to change anytime soon, against geopolitical tensions, and against general economic concerns. So typically when you get bad news, the market goes down, the stock market. The gold market says it's a safe haven against bad news. So that is what Rich has been trying to tell us, is that, again, it's not just a ploy, it's the truth. This is why precious, specifically gold, but you're seeing that silver is becoming very recession proof too. Not as much as gold is, but still very, very safe. And it says, akin to a stuff it under the mattress mentality, investors snap up tangible assets, including gold, when they are worried. Metals prices leaped higher after the U.S. strikes on Venezuela, and again on Trump's threats against the Iranian regime after widespread crackdown on protesters. But now, let's talk about Greenland and Taiwan. You and I spoke about this before the show. President Trump just did a $500 billion deal with Taiwan, a $250 billion deal in one aspect and a $250 billion deal in another. All of it tied to rare earth minerals and precious metals, okay? This is a week after he cripples China's intake of oil from Venezuela, which was a massive part of their energy, okay? Exposing how weak they really are. Now you've got the threat of Iran collapsing, and China's no longer, I don't think, a threat to Taiwan because China's losing energy power, but now they've lost the upper hand because Trump has a $500 billion deal with Taiwan. Who wants to go fight against Trump when he's got a $500 billion deal with somebody? Nobody. They don't
Nobody.
want. They don't. As the young kids would say, Rich, they don't want that smoke. They don't want that smoke, right?
Yeah, it's Trump speak, as far as, bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on. That's what I love about that guy. He's got balls of steel when it comes to that stuff. Well, really, he just knows what he's doing. I mean, let's face it. My brother said this to me a couple months ago. He said, "Is Trump the big?" He asked me, "Is Trump the best businessman on earth?" And I thought about that for a minute, and I thought about all the businessmen that we know of, right? The Elon Musks, the Warren Buffetts, right? These people that are, the Dennis O'Learys, these people that are into negotiating and big business and shark level negotiations. And I thought about it, and I said, no, I think you're right. Trump is the best businessman on earth because he's doing it at the highest level. Not only did he do it at a building and a construction level where he made billions and billions of dollars, and at a real estate level, which is a cutthroat dog-eat-dog world, but he's doing it on a world stage, negotiating the highest terms between countries that have nuclear powers that would just as soon watch the other one crumble if they could. Like, is there anything higher than that? You know?
No, the thing I like about Trump, and I don't understand people sometimes because they only point out his failures, but they never look at his successes. And I think anybody that you respect in the business, they have failure, but they learn from them and they become better. It's hard for me to get behind somebody who says they've had a stellar record, they've never failed at anything.
Yeah.
Because it's just not true. Anybody who's been successful, it has fallen down. We all have. But it's how you pick yourself up and you get going again. And that's how Trump has done it.
Well, if you look at, one of my favorite sports players in the world, Michael Jordan, and you listen to his life story, he was put on the bench for a lot of his young career. He wasn't given the opportunity to even show what he could do because they said he was too small at that level. Like, Michael Jordan rode the bench, ladies and gentlemen, until they could see what he could do. But he also put in the work, and he put in the effort. So everybody fails. Everybody fails on their way to greatness. And like Rich said,
Absolutely.
I wouldn't trust a man who said he wouldn't. It's almost like when a man tells you, I've already mastered everything. There's nothing else I can learn. Well, that's a foolish statement.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's why I respect Trump so much, is not because of his failures, but because he's taken his failures and made it a better situation for us as a whole.
Yeah.
You got to respect people that have gone through those trials and tribulations and actually succeeded and got out of it.
Well, I don't think the argument that Trump filed bankruptcy like 5 or 6 times is a good argument when he's still a billionaire. You know what I mean? It's like, so you mean to tell me that he's a bad businessman because he filed bankruptcy? First of all, what bankruptcy did he file? Do you know? Second of all, is he still a billionaire? Because if I can file bankruptcy, Rich, and become and still be a billionaire, sign me up. You know what I mean? Sign me up.
And he's still going. I mean, listen, the guy's a great success. I mean, you can't deny that. I mean, it's hard being a developer. I was in the development world. It's a very hard, cutthroat business. And the fact that he, went over that and succeeded, it's something to recognize. And people just want to browbeat this guy and say, oh, he failed, he filed bankruptcy, did this. Yeah, but how about everything good he's done?
Absolutely. Well, we know he's into precious metals and we know he's into Bitcoin. The guy's got a portfolio. You want to be like President Trump, ladies and gentlemen? Have a diverse portfolio. Again, you can call right now, 888-308-4202. You can see it on the bottom of your screen. It's just parked right there, 888-308-4202. But you can also, if you don't feel like doing traditional phone, you can go to goldencrestmetals.com/LFA. That's goldencrestmetals.com/LFA. If you can only remember goldencrestmetals.com and you don't remember the /LFA, just let them know who sent you. They'll you're calling from a number that they recognize anyway. And talk to them. Look, folks, I can promise you that Rich is not going to be on the other line going, so come on, we're going to make a deal today. Come on. So we're going to make a deal today. We're going to get this deal done today. We're going to sell that to you today so we can make a little extra money and you can be secure. No. It's going to be a little bit different than that. It's going to be more along the lines of, what do you need? What works for you? How is this going to help you? What's your goal here? Is your goal to protect and save, or is your goal to invest? I mean, I would assume, Rich, that it is like holding their hand and letting them make the decision in the end. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, that's what you have to do, is let people make the decision themselves. I don't believe in high pressure sales tactics and force feed somebody that doesn't want to be, because all that's going to end up happening is it ends up in an unwind where somebody calls you the next day and says, I got forced into this, I want out.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be comfortable, and it takes time. It's not like a one-day deal. Usually they say, let me think about it for a couple of days, and then I'll call you back. And I encourage them, do your research and then make that decision.
Yeah. Do your research, talk to your financial advisor that will probably advise against it because he doesn't understand what a 29% increase in 16 days actually is. I mean, all I know is this, Rich. The amount of money that I paid for this, which at the time I bought this was $22 an ounce, by the way. Okay? The amount of money that I paid for this silver. Money comes and goes. I didn't even really think about it. But to be able to hold this in my fingers, sometimes I feel like Ebenezer Scrooge. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I'll come in here, I'll open this lid, I'll dump it out in my hands, and I'll just sit here and like cards. I'll do this so I can
like Gollum.
Yeah, like my precious, exactly. But all jokes aside, there is something different about holding something that you know is so pure and precious and valuable. And I don't feel that way when I hold a 20 in my hand or a $100 bill. I feel like it's here today, gone tomorrow. But this is different. It's a sense of security almost.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And like you said, a dollar is just a note. I mean, gold and silver is tangible. You can hold it, it retains its value, it increases in value. It's a great asset to own. And it's not the only asset to own, like you said.
Right. Let me ask you this. What would have to happen for the gold market to fall out from under somebody who bought some? Like, let's say somebody comes to you today and says, all right, I got a $50,000 401k. I felt what you said about the bottom falling out of my 401k 4 years ago. I don't want to feel that again. I want to keep something somewhere where I know that when I go to liquidate it, that it was at least secure. What would have to happen for it not to be secure and for it to just tank?
God, I don't see.
Stumped you, didn't I?
Yeah, you caught me. I've never seen it happen. It would be for gold to bottom out, you'd have to have such a supply of it that it would dilute the price. But I don't ever see that happening because we're having a hard time finding it.
Is that why you think China said but didn't show that they found a gold mine that was worth hundreds of billions of dollars or whatever?
Yeah,
it was?
that's exactly it. You know how they are. They're never going to tell the truth.
He says, you know how they are. What do you mean those people, Rich?
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean it that way, but you know what I'm saying.
I know. Everybody knows. But you're right. It's how the Chinese are. It's how the CCP operates. Like, if China comes out and says today, hey, we found $1 trillion gold mine deposit that we're going to start mining, I would say, show me the money. I would go back to my Jerry Maguire fan days, and I'd be like Cuba Gooden Jr., and I'd be like, show me the money, Xi Jinping. Show me the money, because I don't believe you. And the funny thing about it is, Rich, is when that happened, it didn't affect the gold prices at all, because nobody else believes them either.
That's interesting.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So either we would have to have a meteor strike Earth with trillions of dollars of gold deposits on it, or we would have to find, hundreds of billions, if not $1 trillion gold mine to extract from the earth. And it's just so rare that's why it's called precious. That would be the only thing that I could think of.
It's like I said, I don't ever see it.
No.
Obviously I can't see the future, but I don't, the possibility of that is so far out there. I don't see it happening.
Has there ever been in history a moment where, when we were back in our money with precious metals, would it be would it be at risk of losing value if we went back and did that in any way? I don't see how, but
that's very subjective.
I just can't. I'm sitting here trying to think of, and nobody asked that question, by the way. That was something that I had wondered, and that I'd forgot to ask you last week, because I'm trying to rack my brain, because somebody's going to ask that question, right? Somebody who's been thinking about this for years, finally ready to do it. I can't see how that question couldn't be like, what are the risks? Isn't that the first question that everybody asks when they invest in something? Or
Right.
what are the risks? Whether you're asking a financial advisor or yourself, doing your own research, what are the risks of me getting involved into this? What are the risks, Rich, of getting
Well,
involved
I
in
always
precious
tell them to
metals?
look at the trends in the last 10 years, and that's your risk. So if we can look at Ford and say, okay, in the last 10 years, it's never crashed. It's never tanked overnight like Bitcoin or, these other stocks that are out there. You have to look at the history of things and make your own decision to say, well, this is a very low risk opportunity based on the past. So that's what I always go off of. There's no guarantees in life with anything. I can't guarantee that it's going to go up another, 50%, but I always go on the history.
So if you want to know what your risk is, look at the trends in history. Go back 50 years if you have to. I don't think you got to go back that far because we're in a different world now where precious metals are needed for other things now more than ever. But just go back 20 years and look at the trends, and that's your risk. Let me ask you this, Rich, because I think this is an important question, and this is what I would ask if I had a $50,000 or $100,000 savings account or an IRA or something. Is I would ask this: is there a risk in reselling?
No, there is no risk. We
Because
do
it's too,
buybacks all the time.
well, and not only that, it's more for you to have, for you to resell
I mean,
later,
our
right?
inventory increases, which is good because it's in demand, but a lot of people are not doing buybacks because they're holding.
So, is there and I'm racking my brain for questions that I would ask, and here's another one that I would ask if it was my money. If there's no risk in buyback, or the risk of somebody not buying back, I should say, is there a limit on how much you could or can buy back at a specific time?
That I would say yes,
Okay.
because you gotta figure out what the wholesalers are willing to buy back at
Yes.
and how much, because it also depends on liquidity of the wholesaler. If you have a couple $1,000,000 and you're trying to do a buyback, you would have to talk to the wholesaler or multiple wholesalers to try to fulfill the order.
Yeah, to split it all up, and yeah, I would assume it's, and I would assume for anybody it would be, A, do we need it in our inventory? B, do we have the cash to buy back $2 million worth of
Right.
precious metals? But I'll tell you what, these are really good questions to have answered, and I had never asked those last couple questions before. And, for my own sake, I wanted to know those as well. So, but again, if there's no risk, ladies and gentlemen who are watching, in buyback, it just means that it may be, if you have a lot that you ever want to liquidate, like we're talking a lot, it may just take a little while to liquidate it. You may have to do some over here, some over here. It may take you a month or two. It might not all happen at once. But guess what else you can't do if you have $2 million in the bank? Go take it all out. They will
Try taking out 20 grand out of the bank.
They will never let that happen, ever. And I've seen that on much less, by the way. I've seen people try to take out $100,000 out of their account, close their account, and go somewhere else. And the bank's like, we can't do that. That's going to take us like 30 days, 60 days. Yeah. So it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. All right, Rich, I just want to read from one more thing here before we go. And they're talking about, this is Yahoo Finance. They're talking about white metals, okay? And they're saying, it's actually from Bloomberg, but Yahoo put it out. They're talking again about silver breaking $90 an ounce for the first time, and gold flirted with a record high as attacks on the Federal Reserve and the prospect of more U.S. rate cuts and tense geopolitical backdrops added to the blistering rally in precious metals. But then it goes on to talk about white metals. It says the white metal, silver, I would assume, right? I don't know what's white metal. Wouldn't that be like palladium, platinum, silver? It said the white metal jumped as much as 5.3% to touch $91.55 an ounce. So they're talking about silver. And white gold was within $10 of an all-time peak. That's something that we've never talked about. White gold. Can you tell me what the hell white gold is?
Never gotten a request for it.
Like, I seen white gold jewelry, right? But I mean, I don't really know what is white gold just gold that is just colored white because it's missing some kind of, element.
It's interesting you say that because I've only seen it in jewelry. I've never seen a wholesaler actually offer it to us to sell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so underlying U.S. inflation in December wasn't as high as feared, but economists said that the data was artificially depressed by a record-long government shutdown. And these are just talking about things that attributed to, to precious metal rising. But I'm sitting here looking at all four of the majors. A graph.
Right.
And it almost looks like Joe Biden stealing the election on every single one of them, Rich. It's kind of like slowly going up, and all of a sudden it just goes boom and straight up on every single one of them. And I think it's because it's a perfect storm of news and things going, and the dollar and the debt and all of that. But the news around the world, the dollar, the power of the dollar, the debt, everybody saying I'm holding it close to my chest. Now you say America has halted that. It's got to be a perfect storm that's causing that Joe Biden-like jump, right? We're going to call that.
Yeah, and it's time to take advantage of it.
So how do we take advantage of it, folks? 888-308-4202. 888-308-4202. I'm Jeremy Harrell. I will not answer that phone. Rich Jacoby might answer that phone. And if Rich doesn't answer that phone, then somebody that knows Rich will answer that phone. And if you specifically want to talk to Rich and say, hey, I saw this guy, I saw his handsome mug on the TV, and I just wanted to talk to him so bad because I felt so comfortable talking about it, then I'm sure that Rich will oblige and take that phone call. Right, Rich? No?
Absolutely.
See? Look at that, folks. Look at that. GoldenCrestMetals.com, GoldenCrestMetals.com/LFA. When you get to that website, all you have to do, you'll see me on there doing something, smiling, thumbs up, something. You just put your name, email, phone number in, and you request a scheduled meeting. And if you're doing it by phone, that's the best way to do it. Rich said that they'll even do Zoom meetings with you. Whatever it is that you got to do to feel more comfortable to have this conversation out and lay out your plans and your goals, they're willing to do that for you. And they're even working on a Saturday in order to do that for you right now. So even if you're not ready to pull the trigger, but you have your own questions, if you have your own inquiries, or if you have your own fears, reach out to them today. The number's right there on your screen, 888-308-4202. Rich, we got about 1 minute here. So I'll let you say what you want to say, and then I'll take us out.
So I would say we're the only precious metals company on Bloomberg TV. We're on KFI radio now in Southern California. So I think a lot of people are getting behind us and our transparency on pricing and our legitimacy and our reviews and everything to choose us as a preferred broker for precious metals. And it, obviously helps with the partnership with you and educating people out there.
Yeah, and I got to say, being featured on the front page of Rumble helps. It gets in front of more people's eyes and ears. And I've watched other gold and silver and palladium shows on this platform. I think this is the most informative one. I've also worked with other gold companies before, and none of them had this personal touch. I wasn't friends with really any of them. Not friends. I was associates with them. I had great conversation with them when I worked with them, when I bought from them, but never like this. And so I highly recommend Golden Crest Metals at a personal level for all your precious metal needs. And I guess that's it, folks. So have a great rest of your Saturday. From Rich, from myself, and everybody at Golden Crest Metals, have a great rest of your weekend. And we'll see you next week at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the Crest Report. And remember, if you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. Not just the live chat here. Put them in the comment section below, and we'll try to answer them next week for you. Okay? Reach out to them today, 888-308-4202. For all of us here, have a great Saturday. See you later. God bless.
Thanks, everyone.